3, 2, 1. Нажимаю на кнопку. One, two, three. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our special episode of the Methodological Podcast. My name is Catherine Osoy, and I'm going to host today's meeting. And let me introduce our wonderful experts. Alicia, the head of Content Lab, and Irina, our academic team lead. Hello, our dear guests. How are you today?
Hi, thanks for having us. It's great.
Hello, thank you. Perfectly fine.
Oh, glad to hear that. So, how was your day going? Is everything all right?
Yeah, it's been a little bit rainy here, but other than that, it's just fine.
Yeah, and I just told Catherine that it's the first day of summer in St. Petersburg, so.
Great. So I can hear that the weather is all right, the mood is okay, and I hope that we will share our good mood with our listeners as well. But of course, the main purpose is to share your knowledge. Yeah? And this meeting, by the way, is devoted to personalizing the platform content using the platform tools for teachers during the lesson, and especially conducting the very first personalized lesson with a new student. I'm sure that we'll have a great and productive talk today, so let's get it started. And my first question to our dear viewers, please feel free to share your ideas with us. For that, you could use the chat right there. And now I want to ask you if it is hard for you to personalize your lessons. If yes, please send plus. If no, minus. As for me, actually, it's maybe not hard, but difficult at least. Irina, Alessia, what do you think the most popular answer will be today?
Well, actually, I guess that our guests might say that it depends. There won't be like one answer. Probably it depends on a particular case. And I'm sure they have some effective techniques for common request, but it might be more challenging with specific goals.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I totally agree. I think it really depends on the situation, on the time of the day. I think it's sometimes easier to personalize when you're in a good mood and vice versa or something like that. So it also depends on students, on your not qualifications, I wouldn't say that, but probably on the amount of your experience. But yeah, so it totally depends on the situation.
Okay, so as I understand, according to your ideas, it should be something like plus and minus, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Right now, I see that our viewers send some pluses. Yeah, let's see if we will have any minuses today, but a little bit later. And now, I'd like to ask you, let's go to the theory. And I have the very first question for you. When we're talking about personalization, what does it mean exactly?
Well, actually the term personalization has a lot of meanings, but for us, it's tailoring a learner's experience to the learner's needs, constraints, and, personality itself. And it has to be mentioned that personalizing involves adapting a learning track, materials, and also your teaching style. For example, say letting a student choose the amount of homework they want and have time for, or grading your own language to a student's level while speaking during the lesson.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I would add that I think when you deal with personalization, it's very important to understand why it is important or why personalize. And I think that first and foremost, it's about motivation and goals. Because when it's about your student, when you make it about your student and what interests them and what drives them to study, you can use it to engage them in a deeper level, in a deeper way, and that helps them progress faster in a more meaningful way, I guess.
Okay, I see. Thank you for your answers. By the way, while you were answering, we have some other answers from the viewers. So actually, they agree with you as well. They say it depends. Sometimes it is difficult here to find some specific materials, etc. But turning back to our theory stuff, yeah, in what way do we deal with the learning experience of our students? How does it connect with our personalizing?
So by we, I mean we in Skyeng, we personalize the learning experience on several levels, or at least we try to, or in several contexts. So let's start with the course. Usually a course contains a chain of lessons ordered in some logical way to help the learner achieve their learning goals. And that's where we can start to personalize their experience already. For example, sometimes a course or textbook contains lessons that students do not need or will never need in the future. To skip such a lesson is totally fine. And this is, in fact, personalization. On the contrary, you may need to teach your students something that is not in the course, and you will add it to your lesson plan. And that is also fine. And it's also personalization.
Okay, interesting. So as I see, we also can, let's say, that the rule the course, yeah, and skip some lessons or maybe add some information. I got it, thank you. But how can we say that the track is personalized? Maybe there are any, I don't know, some checklists or some tips which can help us.
Well, yeah. So if you want to personalize, or if there's a need to understand if something is personalized, you need to understand when and how exactly to do it. And for that, you need certain parameters, so triggers, or some knowledge about the student. And one of the most common parameters are goals. So what the student needs English for, what they are trying to achieve, their interests, what they like in life, where they can use English, in what sort of contexts of their lives, and level of difficulty. These are three, I guess, most popular ones, and first that come to mind when we talk about personalization.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that speaking about goals, we mean not only learning objectives, but also students' personal aims, For example, say moving abroad is a student's personal aim. And as a teacher, you may help them achieve it by choosing relevant materials that will give them the necessary knowledge and skill for moving abroad. And as for personal interests, they're really helpful in finding materials that will especially drive the student. Imagine a learner is a, science geek, so watching a video about the latest scientific discovery would be the right material to engage them. And apart from goals and interests, some other parameters to personalize are basically any information about the student as an individual, how they learn, or whether they like doing a particular task or not, how fast they develop a new skill, their learning backgrounds, and so on. So.
Okay, so actually, as I understand, we should keep in our mind a lot of stuff, yeah, at the same time. But yeah, it is worth, I suppose. So now my question is for our viewers. Our dear listeners, dear viewers, can you share with us if you use any of these things mentioned by our experts? We will be really glad to see your answers. Like maybe our listeners will find some tips from the colleagues, who knows, yeah. And while you're answering, I have one more question to our experts. Can we personalize the very first lesson with a new student? Because we don't know anything, yeah, how to make it productive, especially if there is really zero information about the student before.
Well, we surely can personalize starting with the first lesson, and that's actually why we have a lot of lessons on our platform. Because they're especially designed to elicit the very information that you need to personalize the route, the track. So during the very first lesson with your student, it's crucial not only to get acquainted, but also to outline the first learning steps that you're going to take. And the first lesson already can be personalized because based on the answers you get during the needs analysis, there is a step in Aloha lesson. It will take only about 15 minutes. So during the needs analysis, you get the information, and based on it, you can select appropriate materials from the suggested list within the lesson.
Yeah, and I would also like to add that Aloha lessons are important in a way that they really help to have an honest conversation about the students' needs, what they like, how they study, what they prefer, and choose something relevant to study then and there. But it's not about just this one lesson. It also helps teachers to understand how to plan the subsequent lessons, what course of study to take, how to organize their long-term work around this particular student, because it gives both teacher and student their understanding of the end result that they want to achieve in the long term, and in what way they will do it. And if you want to really make it effective, you might want to consider doing two things. Preparing, that is going through the content of the lesson and making sure you know what to do with any request of your student on the spot. And the second thing is to be really invested in what the student is saying about their goals and context and why they're learning English. So not just mechanically going through the list of questions, but really giving them the time to answer, listening and processing these answers, as well as asking other additional questions that will help you understand the situation of your student better.
So I see that a good teacher should be a good listener. Yeah.
Exactly. Always.
Yeah, thank you so much for this information. Yeah, by the way, I personally love Aloha lessons because the first lessons, like almost no grammar, yeah, just like really speaking about some fun stuff. What about you, our dear viewers? Have you ever used Aloha lessons? And if yes, have you found any interesting cases there? Feel free to share. Like I always can say that. Yep. So please comment if you have anything what you want to tell us. And the next question while our viewers are answering, what if we combine courses or lessons to personalize the track? Can it be helpful?
Well, absolutely. And actually, to my mind, following a predefined sequence of lessons in a course is, well, if not rarely, then not always an option, especially with adult learners who have their unique needs and backgrounds, you know. And there is a variety of courses and lessons on our platform that you can organize in different ways. For instance, you may use the general course as the core one, and add or remove this or that lesson from it. There are, of course, other possible patterns like alternating two courses and working on this or that by sprints.
And I also want to say that, once again, it must be principled. So when you combine, it's just not for the sake of combination, lots of materials, but you have to really think through the rationale for combining the courses and how exactly you're going to do this and why exactly you're doing this. And it depends on what it's always going to depend on what the student needs, what the student wants to achieve, and what they need to do to make sure that happens. And sometimes one fixed course is totally fine if it meets the criteria.
Okay. Yeah, again, yeah, keep in your mind that everything should be according to the students' goals and purposes, not just to mix, yeah, because they have the same idea or the same grammar. Okay, wonderful. And so we design our content on the platform, but how do we manage to personalize the course? Because we have so many students with so many goals, with a lot of needs and interests. How to consider everything? It's difficult.
Well, thank you, first of all, for such a question. And, when we design a course, we conduct a kind of needs analysis, but for a particular segment of our students. And we discover their needs, preferences, learning styles, backgrounds, and so on. So some useful information. And also we keep in mind that even within one segment, people are different. So our instructional designers create several personal tracks within one course. So you may choose with which one to follow by selecting the next lesson, skipping or picking optional lessons or optional slides, changing the order of units, selecting a version of a task suitable for your student, and so on. So there are options.
Okay, so I got it. Irina, thank you for the answer. And as I understand, like when we open the lesson, we also can see that there are some special tools for teachers, like special sections, etc. Can you please tell us a bit more about them and in what they can be helpful?
I think you're talking about the blocks that we call teachers' notes in general, but they're also divided into several categories. There are teachers' notes of the blue color. We have additional information block, we have you can say block, we have you can also discuss block. So teachers' notes is a block where teachers can learn any methodological aspects of the lesson or of this particular slide. They can see their tips on how to personalize the lesson, or they can see additional exercises or approaches even to working with these exercises. We also have an additional information block, which has maybe some clarifications or interesting facts or any other sorts of small, additional information. It's in the name, basically. It's any additional information that doesn't look good probably in the content of the lesson, but can be useful for the teacher. So we also have you can say or you can discuss blocks, both of them. So you can discuss is a block where teachers can see a list of extra or additional questions or topics for discussion. Sometimes when you finish, when you feel like you can discuss something more about the topic, you can go there and use the questions to do this. And we have also you can say blocks, which are about what you can say. Like sometimes it's difficult for a teacher to explain some rules, so it can help the teacher to do that. So and teachers use them whenever they feel like doing that.
Okay.
And I would add to the list optional slides that are designed, well, actually for multiple reasons. For example, to deepen the knowledge or add to the practice of a particular skill. So teachers may use or skip them depending on the student's progress, first of all. And for example, if your student has already mastered the material of the lesson quickly, you may proceed with extra slides and thus adapt to the student's pace. And what's more, optional slides sometimes provide a different type of training, for example, grammar translation exercises. So it may correspond to the student's learning preferences.
Okay, I got it. Thank you for your answers about all of these special tools which we can use. I suppose it was really interesting to understand, we can use that, and this is for that, etc. Thank you. And I'd also like to ask you if it is necessary to give and personalize the feedback after the covered material. Is it important?
Absolutely, yes. It's essential to discuss and personalize results as well. Feedback is important. Everybody knows that. But feedback must mean something to the student to be actionable. Although we do have a result page at the end of the lesson with the summarized results, for example, with the word list that the student and the teacher covered, the grammar topics, the learning objectives. It is way more effective to discuss it with the student in a more personalized way. For example, not just say that they learned present simple, but support it with evidence. For example, say now you can use present simple because you managed to tell me about your working day, for example. And it plays a big role because it starts a sort of conversation that can lead to making adjustment to the course that you have already planned. For example, you might both decide during this feedback stage that you need to go through some extra material, or that the skill the student practice is not developed enough and need more practice, so the student feels more confident. So yeah, that's why feedback should be personalized. And I guess if you generally personalize the learning experience of your student, it's going to be personalized.
Mm-hmm.
Crucial part.
Right, and remember that your student as well is an active participant of the learning process. So when discussing the results, it's necessary to help your student reflect on their progress as well and formulate their expectations and express their concerns, because the student is in the center of the process, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And by the way, I've heard that you've conducted some research on teachers that's top performing in personalization, right? Can you share with us any results which could be interesting?
Yes, but I have to clarify that we specifically looked into the ways they personalize the course of study, not the lessons. We do know that they find the first lesson very important. This is probably the first insight. They listen to the recording of the intro lesson prior to the first lesson. They really delve into students' lives by asking a lot of questions that can help them personalize the course. Something like what interests the student, what their learning experience was, what kind of preferences they have, what sort of needs they have, what sort of goals they're trying to pursue, and any other special requirements, such as how much homework to assign, what kind of schedule they're going to have, how they're going to communicate. So these sort of organizational questions are also very important to such teachers. So the second one is that we also know that such teachers plan future lessons in some logical sequence with the student goal in mind. We also know that they typically plan at least 4 future lessons, but on average it's around 8 or 10, because that's when it's possible to really see and discuss the first results, the first tangible results, let's say. We also know that such teachers apply different strategies to planning, and they also use different tools and resources to do so. But what makes them good at this is that they do know what sorts of materials are available on the platform and outside of it as well, and when and how to combine these materials, of course. And I think the last thing that is very interesting as well is that they discuss the plan with the student at 2 particular moments. The first time they discuss it when they want to confirm that this course of study is okay with the student, and they want to see their feedback. And later they discuss it probably at some regular intervals to make sure that the student progresses, so sort of to check their progress along the way. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, personalization, especially checking how it is going, is a must. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing. And now I want to ask you some, that's a personal question. In your opinion, what is the most challenging in personalization?
Well, I'd say actually it's the very first step, eliciting the students' needs and wants. Well, it's not like, I don't know, evil students intentionally keep us in the dark, but sometimes their requests are vague and poorly formulated, but we as teachers, as educators, can help them to, clarify, specify, prioritize what they want and expect. So.
I'd say also once you elicit that information, it's really difficult sometimes to keep track of it. It's like when it becomes too much. But I'd also want to say that maybe knowing when it's okay, what's challenging is knowing when it's okay not to personalize. First of all, it's time consuming for the teacher. And it can be incredibly challenging to personalize every stage of the learning experience for every student. And teachers sometimes can have a lot of students. And there are great courses already out there, and there is no need to reinvent the wheel. And the same research that we did last year showed us that actually not personalizing can be refreshing for a student, meaning that sometimes teachers choose to teach something random, something they find subjectively interesting, but not interesting for the student. So something not personalized, and students like it because they came to learn something new about the world, and here it is. I mean, although knowing when to teach this kind of stuff is very important, and it's sort of personalization too.
Okay, thank you for the answers. And based on your answers, the final question: are there any tips for our teachers who are watching us now and will watch the recording later?
Well, but once again, remember that your student is an active participant of the educational process. So give your student a choice and let them help you build their learning experience.
Agree. I think it's a great tip. I think I would. I mean, I would also add that probably you need to decide where you want to arrive eventually with your student, what results you expect to achieve, plan your route according to it, and personalize this route to make sure that the journey is both efficient and enjoyable. I think that's very important as well.
Okay, Irina, Alyssa, thank you so much. I hope that our teachers who have been listening to us for these 30 minutes will think about these tips and will try to implement them to their work. By the way, now our time is up, unfortunately, and we're about to finish the meeting. Our dear guests, dear listeners, please check the chat. You can find the link. This is the feedback form. We will be really glad if you find 1-2 minutes to fill in it. Yeah, because your feedback is really important, and we can take some, interesting ideas, or just like check what we can make better, what we can improve, etc. And of course, it helps us to talk about what you are really interested in. Kind of personalization as well, right?
Sort of.
Yeah, so as I already told you, now we need to finish our meeting. Thank you, our dear experts, Irina and Alyssa, for this really useful and important information.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
Hope it was helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. So then here, have a nice day, have a perfect time, have good lessons with your students, of course, personalized ones. Yeah. And see you very soon, I hope.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a nice time.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.